Welcome back. This is Zephyr with Diablo 2 Distilled, a mod of my own creation, and I am maybe hoping to actually do some preliminary, very alpha style tests with this. So if you want to join the Discord and then bug me about it, we can get like a little test group together. I know there's a handful of people that have joined asking about play testing it. If you want to play test it, come to the Discord, talk to me. We'll try to get some different people's opinions on some stuff. And mostly I'd be looking for like things I forgot to do or things that are slightly incomplete maybe, or just feel wrong. Like maybe the stagger recovery system. Maybe stagger is just too much. Maybe my changes to stagger are just too much. You know, you're getting staggered too much, or the enemy's getting staggered too much, and it doesn't feel good. So let's, come to the Discord. Let's discuss. I don't know how soon it will be, but I can just hand you a version every week or two and see what you can do with it. I'm sure you can break it pretty quick. But you, my audience, seem to like these videos as I get hundreds of views on some of them. And I know that some of you have commented and come to the Discord asking about it. So let's just move ahead with trying to get like a little testing group, just a few people doing that maybe. But I'm moving very slowly on this. This is very much a side project, so I only work on it a little bit at a time. And sometimes I get caught up with some of the more code edit stuff, which is a lot harder for me to get done. So this is some of the lower hanging fruit that I've been messing with. I adjusted ethereal item durability. So in vanilla, it's half +1 so that they're really weak and shatter. In the mod, I made it so it was just 2 times, kind of reverse that. But then it felt like ethereal items were just too strong because of the 50% bonus that they have on them. Since I'm currently playing in Amazon, I'm not seeing that benefit on, say, bows, because bows can't currently become ethereal. I guess technically they probably could, and they probably get the bonus. But they don't have any durability, so it doesn't really make any sense to make them ethereal. But I'm working on that still. It's going to be a while, but there's a lot of work to be involved with changing the entire durability system, as it touches a lot of different places. And rewriting code and injecting it is still very new to me with the templating tool. So yeah. Anyway, so now they're normal durability. Whoops. Now they're normal durability here. So they will break a little bit quicker, and they won't just be like super durability items like they were when durability is so low in my mod that, you pick up an ethereal item and it's twice as much. It's going to last you until you find your next ethereal item at that point. And that's not entirely what I want. I want things to break. I want you to experience breakage and decisions. And less stockpiling things in your inventory and in your stash, items sell for less, etc., etc. So adjusted cold flow on monsters. There are some exceptions for bosses who are already getting less than 25% slow. But almost all monsters, especially in normal, were 50%. Players were 50%. That was done previous day in a code edit. Because this was reading from a column in monster stats, whereas in player slow was just the default value. It was a fall through and hard coded for whatever reason. They didn't put a player entry into the monster stats, which I guess makes sense. But anyways, so some bosses are immune to being slowed or relatively similar. They only take 10% slow, but everybody is a maximum of 25% slow at the moment. So cold as a damage type, it slows less. And in the future, it may actually also slow casting speed. I haven't gotten there yet. I don't know how important it is for me to get there. So it's not a high priority at the moment. But it's been discussed with a couple people, and it might happen someday. I removed all the flat armor class bonuses or defense bonuses and replaced them with similar percentage bonuses. On uniques and sets. I hadn't really touched uniques and sets. I've done a lot with the affix system. The prefix and suffix files are completely rebuilt. And if you weren't aware, that means charms and jewels are gone. I'm not a big fan of jewels at all. I don't really mind things like rainbow facets or like unique item jewels, but the base jewels being rare and things like that really bugged me. So if jewels ever come back, they probably won't ever be rare again. And if charms ever come back, there'll probably be a like limit on how many you can hold, kind of like a half inventory kind of filler. And a lot of the charms will probably be a lot weaker than people recall. So if you're looking at this mod and going, man, these rings are really strong, or these boots are really strong, part of that is because boots don't give armor, shields don't really give armor, and charms and jewels are gone. That's part of it. And the other part is I like Diablo 1, where things were just a slightly bigger at the beginning. So you're going to find that +5 max damage ring maybe around level 5, because I think that's when it can kind of start dropping unless you pull it from a boss. And those kind of things are really, really fun, in my opinion, being able to find that kind of really powerful but ridiculous thing. And in Diablo 1, you'd find stuff like 20 magic stat, or 30 dexterity as a helmet, and you're like, hey, I'm an archer, 30 dexterity, that sounds great, just give me that. And in Diablo 1, it wasn't percentage damage bonuses, so it wasn't 30% damage to your bow. Instead, it was 30 times your level, and then divided by 200, and then that was a flat min-max bonus, both to minimum and maximum damage. So your damage variance didn't actually change in Diablo 1. Go figure. Which is also a reason I've made so variances in my mod are a lot tighter. Even for lightning damage, it's like 1/6 instead of like 1 to 1,000. You'll be doing a lot more like 300 to 1,000 or 200 to 1,000, something like that. And that might even be tighter in the future as well. But for right now, it's just 1/6. Anyway, so there's a lot of comments there. But all armor class bonuses and armor have been replaced with armor class percentage bonuses. For less lingo savvy, that's just defense. Defense as a dice roll. So belts don't have armor class, and shields aren't intended to eventually maintain it. So they still do have like 1 or 2 armor. Who cares? But I left that in there on the base shields and stuff for right now. So like the most armor you can get off of a shield in normal is something like 20. And that's like a late game tower shield, or a late game for normal difficulty. So otherwise, these have been removed. I know there's probably still some lingering status effects or stats on belts and shields that probably shouldn't exist. We'll figure them out and find them and remove them eventually. Cold length reduction has been removed from all sets and uniques. It's no longer rollable on affixes already. Cannot be frozen still exists on all items it previously existed. So there's like, I think it's like Sanders' belt or somebody's belt, and Ravenfrost, and maybe 1 or 2 other uniques. Or there's a rune word. I think it's more Diablo 2 Resurrected that has that. But cannot be frozen still exists. It's not as valuable in the sense that slow is less powerful, but it is more valuable in the sense that cold length reduction is gone. So, and then eventually, I do also want to remove cold length reduction being related to your cold resistance. As far as I understand, both poison and cold resistance also lower the duration of those things. And I don't like that. I would rather have them be split apart and separated. So poison length reduction, cold length reduction, these may come back, but they may come back in a different form, similar to the assassin with like curse reduction and things like that. And if I do something like that, it'll be kind of like tenacity in League of Legends or status resist in Dota, that kind of thing. So reduces the duration of effects, which will reduce the damage of those effects for poison and stuff, and bleed and such like that. But it would be all effects probably by a single stat if I can get it to work. Or clean up the one that the assassin works with. So yeah, remove poison resist reduction or length of reduction. Removed all max resist bonuses on sets and uniques. This doesn't normally spawn on items anyways. I am not a fan of the idea that you are either one-shotted or tanky as all get out. So the idea that max resists even come into play actually frustrates me. I normally like that players and enemies can kind of be synced together. And so enemies and players do have more similar health in my mod, which is actually how the game kind of released back in the day. Earlier versions of Diablo 2 back in like 0.07 or 0.08, you had apparently zombies with something like 500 health and then in hell difficulty, and you could have about 500 health in hell difficulty as well. And so it was a lot more, hey, they're kind of like me. And then bosses were, a little bit tankier, but they weren't, 50,000, 100,000, a million health, which we see in later editions of Diablo 2 and, of course, other Diablo-likes and Diablo genre games like Diablo 3, where things have billions of health. And I like the idea that bosses are maybe just a bit stronger than you. They're 5 times stronger than you, not 500 or 5,000 times stronger than you, specifically as a bullet sponge. So anyways, max resist being lower means that damage can be lower, just a little bit. It also means that resistances could be potentially a little bit more spread out, more rare in some ways. And I have debated on making resistances a diminishing return formula with leniency. So I don't know that I'm going to do this, but it's a thought. And I actually like how damage resist works in Diablo 2. Understand that physical percentage damage resist has been removed from a lot of items as well, but it's not on this list because I haven't gone through and like tediously gone through and made sure of it. But resistances make more sense to me as an elemental thing, and I don't like the idea that if you walk up to an enemy and you have 0 fire resist, that you just instantly die. But I also don't like the idea that you can walk up to a fire-breathing enemy or a fire-stomping enemy, something Diablo himself or whatever, and have 95% resist and just face tank it, because then you're not moving, you're just kind of standing still. You have no threat. So I want to remove the instant kill and the completely no threat categories of that. So damage is going to be coming down slightly on a lot of abilities on enemies, especially because you're going to have less access to health. So max resists are gone. I still need to remove them from the paladin. This is just from uniques and sets. So, and this is also uniques and sets, not just uniques, but yeah. So those are some of the things. I will start linking this in the overview. Will have a link to both the other 2 files. So I will just be linking the overview on future videos. So you can just go to the overview and then go to the other pages if you need to. That's enough for that. I know I'm long-winded. A lot of little changes, and hopefully they play out in a way that feels good. I did just before recording, I did just test the let's see here. What do we got? I don't want to sell any of this. I did just test the stagger system. It does seem to be working exactly as intended. We didn't do the Soulstone quest. What do we got in here? Do we need to throw something away? Yeah, we're never going to wear this. But it's so good. 61 defense, 24% faster hit recovery. It's actually pretty good. I'm going to save it. Okay, we'll just get going here. So starting off in Act 5, I probably won't do every single quest, and for whatever reason, I can never remember how Act 5 goes with Nilithak or whatever his name is, and Some comments on the future of this mod. One of the things I'm probably going to be doing in the very near future is defense. Probably won't get as I don't know. Dexterity may not affect defense as much, or it may just be completely removed. I'm not sure how I want to handle that. It may be strength might give a bonus to defense instead. I don't know. The idea that like you're capable of wearing better gear is already kind of part of that. So I don't know, but I am going to be removing the dexterity calculation from shields. And in the process, I am also going to be... I think exploding arrow needs to be a little bit bigger. Just like 1 meter or something. That's a good bow. But dexterity is no longer going to be a part of the... going to be part of the... I'm mumbling, I apologize. Going to be part of the shield formula, the block formula, so it will be a lot harder to get to 75%. It'll be a lot rarer as a just a thing that you can do. And shields don't give armor. Most shields have a block speed increase. This doesn't really affect characters like the Paladin, but it does affect some other characters who just can't block very quickly. There will probably be some adjustments to how blocking works, where you can only be staggered every so often by the block stun. So like maybe block stun is 8 frames out of 25, and you can only be staggered once per 25 frames by block stun, something like that. That might be how I do it. And then block stun itself will probably be related to a combination of, you know, that 20% health threshold again for stagger hit recovery and stuff like that. So I hate to just slap it back into the whole health dependency, but that is the threshold for stagger normally. So it kind of makes sense that it would be the same threshold for getting staggered on your shield. And then eventually durability on shields. You know, blocking doesn't actually take durability in Diablo 2 for who knows why. I don't know. That seems like that would be an easy, obvious thing that you would do with shields, but guess not. They probably ran out of time or just didn't think about it at the time and just moved on, moving very quickly through what they were doing. So. Ooh, I got a sword. And it's ethereal. +6 to holy fire. I don't really care. Let's just toss it. I just want to see what I look like. Yeah. +6 to holy fire. Let's put on holy fire. That might be too much damage. Just saying, that might be too much damage. Holy fire gives 57 to your attack. That's not the... It's not the... I just want to use this for a little bit. This is just going to be funny to me. But my idea for shields is that they will be easier to use, but they will be weaker. And when I say weaker, I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, you're going to nerf shields to the ground and all this other stuff. That's how they were when the game released. There really wasn't anything that could get you to 75% block. And I think this is hilarious. missing a lot here. Guess there's no reason that you couldn't just pull out a sword and do this at a whim, right? No reason an Amazon couldn't just pull out a sword. Archers had swords back in the day. Man, that poison's annoying. Creative Vitality, 11% Magic Find. Oh, speaking of Magic Find, I'm going to be probably making it less like granular. So if you find something that gives Magic Find, it's just like a flat, like, oh, it's 10% or it's 15% or it's whatever. And this is ethereal. I'm going to break it eventually, but I do think it's funny. There's like no downside for me to pick up the sword, though. Let's see here. Other than, of course, I can't use my arrow skills. But like I still get critical chance. And I get this attack rating bonus, I think, still. Let's see here. I don't know if I get the attack rating bonus. The sword itself has a ton of attack rating on it, though. Ooh, a flail. I don't actually need the longbow. It's just a random longbow. Okay, I want to show this off. I didn't show this off in any previous thing, but flails have this like super crazy range in this mod. Woo! So they act as a whip. If you're familiar with my other work in Salt and Sanctuary, I really like the whip idea. And in that game, I actually added to the official version, because the developer actually really liked it, I added a critical to the tip of the whip. And I was just doing it for my mod, but then he was like, oh, that's cool. This flail is actually doing pretty good work. It's very fast. But yeah, I just wanted to, let's take the minimap off and show how far I can hit from this. So whips have the same range as spears in the vanilla game, and spears are like twice as long in this game. And I tried to match them up visually too, but I just think this is funny. It's also fun. Like, yeah, the visual doesn't match up on this at all for the flail, but the idea is that these are kind of like fake whips is what I'm going with here. I don't do damage, but, you know. So, both of those are fun. So, 36 damage, 56 damage, 171 damage. The flails do have higher minimum damage. I think they normally are like 1 to whatever. Here, I don't do this enough. I should switch around. Let's do Ariat Summit. I'll just go here. And then we'll just do normal items. Maces. Ariat Summit's really old. If you've never been there, I'm surprised. So the original is 1 to 24 with a 12.5 average. And they are fast on the Amazon and most classes, and they're very fast on the Assassin and the Paladin. For some reason, the Assassin has very fast flails. Who knows? Who knows why that is? Looks like the Assassin is that way with all the maces. You'd think it was maybe the Druid, but apparently not. Druid gets clubs and like some other stuff. Yeah, here's like the two-handed mauls. They get those as their class-specific bonus. But so here's the range adder right here, the basics of range. Everything has a range of 1. Melee weapons has a range of 1. So if there's no range adder, it's just 1. If it has a range adder, you know, then +1, +2, +3, whatever. The maximum in the base game is +4. Or maybe it was +3 and a maximum of 4. Let's go look at spears real quick. Yeah, so it was +4. Not even all spears had it, which is strange to me, but whatever. A lot of hidden stats and bonuses. The difference between a odd number and an even number is mostly the in-between angles of the cardinal directions. Your northeast, your northwest, that kind of stuff. Those are added, but there's not really a whole lot that gets added elsewise. So like going from 4 to 5, that's the big deal. Going from 1 to 2, not so much. So almost every single weapon in my mod has a range of 2, because it just gives you some of the corner angles, because underneath the hood, Diablo 2 is still grid-based. They're diamond grids instead of, like, so to say, squared. You're looking at it at a sideways angle. Okay, that didn't work. But yeah, so flails originally had a range of 3. In my mod, they have a range of 5. And I could honestly say I would really think it'd be funny to make them just straight up like 6 or 7 or something. They'll look really stupid, though. All two-handed weapons, staves, mauls, in my mod, they're also 5. So if it's a great sword, if it's a staff, if it's a maul, if it's a huge... Well, I guess axe is probably... Great axes, I don't think, get the extra range. I'm not sure on that. They're not great axes in the same sense that, like, you'd find in, say, Dark Souls. They're not, like, huge, long axes, right? Like, they're more like these short, huge, short axes. So I don't know if the great axes have the bonus in my mod or not, but... And then spears have, like, a range of 8. I think it's 8 plus 7 instead of plus 4. So that's only 3 extra range, but it's it's a lot. And I know some of the ideas that I have here are often regurgitated in Path of Exile. I like Path of Exile. I don't love it, but I like it. I've never been able to fall in love with it. I've always been kind of a Diablo 2 junkie. I've played a lot of Grim Dawn. I've played a lot of Diablo 3. But Diablo 3 for me was something I played often with friends or while kind of watching TV, pushing a greater rift and leveling up my unique gems and finding, some fun builds or sets or whatnot. But I didn't really push the greater rifts like I know a lot of people were pushing, these super high level rifts, and that didn't really interest me. I'm not a huge late game person, and so Diablo 3 not having a real enjoyable, repeatable campaign partially ruined it for me, and a lot of the items are just... some of them are fun and some of them really aren't. I'll put it that way. But both Grim Dawn and Diablo 3 I've played a lot of. And by a lot, I mean like 500 hours. So I know a lot of people put way more hours into these games than I have. But I've also played, some other Diablo likes. Torchlight, probably only 100 hours into that. Torchlight 2 specifically, I mean. And then... which had some really cool things, but again, it just didn't capture me the way that Diablo 2 or even Grim Dawn was able to capture me. Go figure. And one of my biggest beefs with Grim Dawn is, of course, the amount of complexity is kind of just too much. It's over complex for not a lot of benefit. And even the developers have said that, like, they would do less damage types, or they would do less this or that in the future. And they're still working on a 3rd expansion to that game. That game came out officially, I think, in 2016. It was in early access for a while. And they're working on a 3rd expansion, which has kind of a Druid Beastmaster character coming. And they're revamping their Titan Quest engine to be able to... Look, a great axe. We were just talking about those. to be able to do some special animations with like two-handed weapons and stuff to make them kind of feel better. And I think they're adding spears. Um, Go figure, spears are a rare item in video games. I guess people just don't find spears very interesting. I don't know. Wow, that hurts. Going back to some more modding related, what I'm going to do, since that's probably why you're here listening to me run around in circles here. I am debating on removing a bunch of stuff that I find kind of not very interesting from the stats. Note that I've already removed stamina from vitality. Vitality still has one dependency at the 20% health mark for stagger, but there's a lot of dependencies removed from health. Health does now have the 1% max life is regenerated guaranteed every second, unless there's something that like actively blocks the code. But you now have a built-in freebie code written 1% max health, which in this case is like what, 1.1. It's not, and it's closer to like 0.97% because of the code and how it calculates some stuff. But it's really close to 1%. We'll call it 1% because that's what the math is. It just can't do the math perfectly because of the 25 frame limit thing. The higher the health, the probably more that kind of falls into whatever. But anyways, so right now, if you looked at my health, I have 114 max health. You can see it regenerating there. And I am kind of alt-tabbing here. 114. Can't do math. Sorry, give me a second. It's probably close to something like 11 health regen over 10 seconds. So if we had I don't know if I have a regen item. I don't. Hey, Shank. You're just kind of standing there. Not the prettiest dude. I mean, gray skin. Gosh. Looks like he's out of a black and white movie. But anyways, so health regeneration is built in. It's baked in. Right now, I'd have somewhere around 11 regen. If I were to wear more regen, then that's kind of what it would like visually look like on a piece of gear. Sockets to an item of your choice. Okay, well, I'll just sell this. Sell that. Sell that. Sell that. Am I wearing damage reduction? All the resistances on this is so good, and then magic damage reduced by 1 as well, but magic items is pretty good. We've got we'll swap this out. So here's what I was talking about earlier, you know, like that 10 strength amulet or something back in the day of Diablo 1, you know, 10 strength, I can wear anything. Literally doesn't change anything in this screen. Let's try this screen. You know, so like I could wear that. It's not as good. I could wear that. It's not as good. 12 vitality is not bad, but you know. Oh, hey, -1 armor or all stat. I would like the negative items to never appear in the shops. I don't know how to do that. I'll have to look into that. So that's an error. They don't have durability, so they shouldn't be able to spawn the repair durability feature. Something I am going to be doing right now, belts can get a lot of stats on them, like dexterity and vitality. I need to clean that up. Right now, the idea was his belts are kind of like rings. They can just kind of do whatever they want. They're kind of an accessory slot, you know. I mean, literally, belts are an accessory. So that kind of thing. Probably nothing here I need from her. Him, her, I don't. I think it's an old lady. I can see all 13 pixels of her face. So, and then going back to stats and talking about that continuously as I ramble on here. Mana regeneration. I really need to fix this fire. It's just so intense, I can't see anything. Mana regeneration is 3 plus half a percentage point. Let's just get the mana ones. Yeah, so I just found like the best bow ever, probably. Oh, and this is not following the rule. 1 to 36 lightning damage. That should be something closer to like 6 to 30, or 6 to 36 is probably fine as well. But the idea is that since you need to hit with things, there's already built-in variance. You don't need double variance, but let's see here. We had hit causes monsters to flee. We had attack rating. We have even more attack rating. We have lightning damage. We have minimum damage. We have percentage damage. Yeah. Maybe sell that bow, but other than that, it's not even that important. Something extra fast up here? Feels extra fast. Something feels extra fast. I haven't leveled up in forever because I died a lot. I should not be probably level 24 in Act 5, so there are some probably issues with the mod being a little bit too forgiving. I don't know what the right word is there. Where, you know, I don't need those levels to function. And it's one thing to like, oh, hey, I'm not, you know, level 32 instead of 31 when I'm beating such and such boss, but I'm thinking more in the sense that you would normally probably be closer to level 30 or something when entering Act 5, and I'm 6 levels below that, which is kind of a lot. My goal with the health and mana stats, as I've probably said in the past, but just to clarify, is that I don't want you just relying on potions at all times. So if I walk in through this poison, yay, I got poisoned, and I stand over here, I am getting poisoned. I have some poison resist, but it's just kind of a slow poison. You know, it's not instant death, 0 health, next hit kills you. Although I'm getting pretty close to that if I don't use a potion. So the health regeneration is still kind of offset by that poison. I'm still taking damage. But you're not relying on your potions every second constantly is the idea, and you rely on them more and more in the beginning, and then the idea is that they will actually kind of fall off as you get later into the game. So here's the best potion in the game, Super Mana Potion, and it's only giving me 63. Why does that disappear? Come on, there we go. 63 out of 66, right? This is great because it's actually a percentage plus a flat value. You look at the health potion here, and it's giving me 119. So these are really strong right now. Pop that real quick. Full rejuves don't exist anymore. But the idea is that as you get higher and higher amounts of mana and health, your potions are actually going to be worse and worse and worse. I'm not a huge fan of potions in general. As a concept in like video games and RPGs, and because they're often just kind of abused and don't feel very interesting. I like kind of how Dota handles potions, where it's like a non-combat thing and you're wasting time, and so in that sense, like if you want to wait for your health to regenerate 1 health a second, or 1.1 health a second kind of thing, then that's fine. And Grim Dawn did a very good solution to this, where you have Constitution, where you're able to super heal as long as you're not in combat. Although I'd argue that Constitution is probably too easy to abuse in Grim Dawn still. It probably should be something closer to like 6 seconds of no combat, or 6 seconds of neither attacking nor taking damage, something like that. But in Grim Dawn, I think it's 3 or 4 seconds of not taking damage, and immediately your Constitution kicks in. And it's a secondary health bar over top of your normal health bar. It's a yellow overlay, and it's pretty cool as a concept. I still think it's probably a little too strong and leads to some issues with the potion is still an oh crap button in that game in a lot of circumstances, and Constitution is still a run away, get max health, run back in kind of situation. I'm a bigger fan of like the Dark Souls kind of situation, where it's very dangerous to use a potion. It's you're a little bit more limited on it. But yeah, don't get me wrong, I love Diablo 1. A lot of this mod is kind of Diablo 1.5, Diablo 2 minus 0.5, something like that. Where are we going? Where are we going? Just kind of killing stuff here. So those are some of the changes that I've already done with stats and kind of why. I'm kind of curious what that long battle bow would give, but I doubt it's better than what I've got. This is a razor bow. In the base game, I actually reduced movement speed. So one of the things I like is boots tend to have more movement speed on them, just slightly. They can just roll higher over the course of the game. So uniques do often have movement speed, and it does kind of come off as a required stat still, unless you're, of course, a barbarian. I don't even know if that fire is hitting me. Sure not doing damage. But some of the things I'm probably going to do with stats in the future, the whole removing dexterity from the shield calculation, it means shields are just shields. They don't need investment to be good. And your primary investment is going to be wearing them. So they might have strength requirements, and they might have, oh my gosh, that hurt. Let's be careful here. Oh, jeez. He's turning them into suicide bomber things. Little baneling looking things. You thought those were from StarCraft. They're actually from Diablo. What's his range? I want to see his range. It's just melee. That's sad. There's nothing special to him. His thing should totally be like a huge, gigantic whip, because that's what he's holding. I just want to see what this axe does. Oh, come on. Pick it up. Negative 34% enhanced damage. Attack rating, fire damage, and lightning damage. That's some good lightning damage, though. Can't wear it, apparently, because of the level. That's not a cool game. It must have rolled a higher level affix, because it's just a normal axe. 140 lightning damage. So in like a future version of the game, that might be like 120, just like a 10-15% cut at the top, and then a boost to the bottom. So it might be like, I don't know what the math is on that, but like 120. So it'd be like 20 damage minimum, 120 damage maximum, something like that. I mean, it's just so much lightning damage on that. That's ridiculous. And just in general, a lot of damage in the game has been reduced. So. Oh, and fire and lightning can't, like, they won't spawn together in the future. That's a future thing. You'll either get fire damage or lightning damage or cold damage, but you won't get all three. So your way of dealing with that is sockets. You want to add cold damage to a fire weapon, you can add a rune or a cold gem, and so you can still get multis, rainbow damage, so to say. But they will be different, more player decided, and less, hey, this does 5 fire and 3 lightning and 4 cold and 7 poison and stuff like that. And I have nothing against rainbow damage. I just want items to have a little more specification when they drop. So like, a unique item could have all 3 damage types or 4 damage types if it really wanted to. And that then makes it unique. You know what I'm saying? In that context. So that's kind of the idea. It's not done yet. It's long ways off. It's probably some low-hanging fruit I could probably do really easily. Just making those be part of the same yeah, that's not doing any damage. I'm not sure why, if it's just because I have so much fire resist or if it literally just isn't doing damage. Oh, you know what? It could be. It could be my ring and amulet. I'm wearing the wrong amulet here. But I've got like magic damage reduced by 4. So it could be that this is actually being reduced enough between the 4 damage reduction flat and the resistances both. Did I actually let the other guys out? I don't know if I let the other guys out. I'm not sure if I even care. It's more of a just traversal here. Well, it's acting like it's doing damage. Something I may do with dexterity. Right now it gives attack rating, but attack rating is a lot softer, so you don't need as much dexterity, kind of, as you used to, but now every class needs a little bit. Let's just check this out. I doubt it's any good. Fire resist. Is I may add dexterity into a attack speed formula, and it would be something like for every 100 attack speed you get like, or every 100 dexterity you get maybe 10 attack speed. So it wouldn't be a lot, but it would be something. So like my character's hitting 98, I'd get 10 attack speed. But then if I have, say, attack speed gloves, I do not. If I had attack speed gloves, then anything. I'll take the mana potions. But it would just be like this subtle attack speed bonus. So if you really want to get like an extra 100, dexterity, you can get that. It would apply to all melee weapons, but not anything else. So it wouldn't be, sorry, all physical weapons. So this wouldn't affect casters unless, of course, they're going with an actual, melee weapon. But this means that, if you're using a staff and you've got some decent dexterity and you want to be able to switch back and forth between a spell and a basic attack of some kind, like an enchanting sorceress or something, you could. It would just kind of be there. And with the attack rating formula, it changed. And as well, staves also have a built-in freebie attack rating thing, which is intentional, so that you use staves over like wands or whatnot. But the idea is that you could do that. So if you wanted to go kind of glass cannon archer and do like 300 a dexterity, even maybe 400 dexterity if you really want to get crazy with items and stats both. What is reducing my vitality? Something is reducing. Oh, that's reducing my vitality. My belt. Half freeze duration. I know I was just talking about half freeze duration. That's an old belt. It doesn't despawn the affix. But kind of the game would be more stat oriented, like Diablo 1, like Dark Souls, or Salt and Sanctuary. You're going to get a lot more stat oriented gameplay. I'm not going to remove any stats, even though if I did, I'd probably go with more of a Dota-esque stat system if I were. Staves might get a massive remake in the future. Let's just do this for a second. So right now you see that this has bonus attack rating built in, and it has... Okay, that was interesting. I think the poison missed. I think there was some kind of miss rate on the poison that shouldn't be there. Staves have this built-in attack rating. They do have kind of a moderate two-hand damage at 1.5, kind of moderate damage. And then they have the basic mace damage of the damaged undead and all this other stuff. But instead of having like +2 to fireball as a sorceress only trait, I plan on making them a little more open-ended. And I'll have to figure out how to do that. But I like the idea, at least conceptually, that you pick up a staff, and I'm realizing that Path of Exile 2 is actually kind of doing this. You pick up a staff, and it's a staff of Fireball like Diablo 1, right? Because I'm a little bit of a Diablo 1 junkie. Even if I don't have a lot of hours in it, I just love the mechanics of it. It just feels more complete. Pike, huh? That's some good damage. I might have to cut the damage on weapons. I forget that I haven't actually done that. Enemies scale a little bit slower, so damage should also be scaling a little bit slower like Diablo 1. What was I talking about? Something about Diablo 1. Don't explode on me, please. He exploded back there for some reason. Well, I know generally what I was talking about. It was, stats in Dota. You have like kind of 3 general stats, and each character kind of benefits from one of them. They did add it in Universal Heroes not too long ago, but you kind of benefit from one of the stats. Like an archer might be agility, a warrior might be strength, stuff like that. But then strength gives max health and regen and stuff like that. So you have these different offsets and stuff. It's a simpler system, but than Diablo 1 or Diablo 2 in some ways. Oh, I was talking about stabs. You pick up a staff of fireball and you can use it. And in Diablo 1, it was charges. It didn't give you the skill, but anybody could learn fireball. You just had to have enough magic to learn it and then also use it. And that's kind of where my thing is inspired by. I don't know if that's where Path of Exile 2 is inspired by it, but they're doing a similar thing where you have a built-in attacks, and you can even use fists and stuff and modify them with your gems in that game, your skill gems. So that's kind of where I was thinking about eventually, maybe. Again, a lot of this is just experimentation and concept and what time do I have to build this and whatnot. But the idea would be, I don't have a staff in here anymore, but the default staff mod is what they call it, staff modifier, is used on like paladin shields and barbarian helmets and sorceress staves, naturally being the first one. And that that's all cool and good for the sorceress, but I think it'd be kind of interesting to have some uh, lower level spells also be just available to other classes. And so you want to get a staff of firebolt. You could, and eventually it might be +3 or something. And what it could be is it's like +1 to firebolt, but also, why can't I click this? There we go. Needed an enemy nearby, I guess. I don't know. What is he throwing at me? That must have a higher chance of stagger than normal. That's every time. It's only doing 6 damage. Neat. Some new experience every day. Ooh, a field plate. Let's see what it's got. I apparently did not remove poison length from the affix pool. I just removed it from all the unique items. Okay, whoops. Yeah, I'll just throw that away as well. Path of Exile 2, which I think has a beta coming up in November. so not too far away. They're doing something where each weapon does have that kind of built-in basic attack and stuff like that. But I would want to maybe offset my design with something closer to the idea. Here's a Staff of Fireball. It gives +1 to Fireball to any class, but it gives +2 to Fireball if you're a sorceress. Something like that. I don't know if it's these guys or something else, but according to the game data, they actually gain movement speed and attack speed when they are frozen, when they're chilled. I don't know if it actually works because I think they're actually immune to cold damage. So I've never, seen that before. I've never noticed it before. I've never tested it either. So I may need to speed up the AI a little bit. In the base game, the AI is really slow. And what it is I think it's like ticks between actions. I am also slowly working on a clicker game, so to say, that has some AI enemies in it. And it's been interesting to, just kind of figure out how to make some of that stuff work. Find the distance from target and then, don't follow them too closely. And these guys do not like me. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh, there's more dudes this way. Hey, that's actually a good ring if I didn't already have one. Let's see here. There's no way I'm getting my body. Maybe I can get a waypoint. Whew. Yeah, this might be the end of the video here. Not sure what I want to do here. Can I punch him? That's funny. I actually staggered him. Okay, let's just go back to town. Yeah, I'm going to call it quits. Because otherwise I'm going to have to wander all the way back there. Aren't I? Yeah, we missed the waypoint for the area at Plateau, and we hadn't found the Crystalline Passage waypoint either. And then the Frozen River is the offshoot of a Crystalline Passage. Well, that sucks. Oops, that's not what I want to do. But some of the things that I might do, there's the right button here, in the future. So one of them is like Pierce. Pierce is a weird thing because 30% Pierce chance from 3 skill points. It feels like a lot. It's not actually working half the time. More than half the time, obviously. I probably want like a Valkyrie to prevent what just happened here. Penetrate is really useful to just never miss. A couple points into that is actually really, really powerful. And then Critical Strike is, well, 12% chance to critical strike. I'm mostly using fire arrows, so it's not very useful. But the ideas behind some of this probably would be simplified. Now, if I was making a game from scratch, I probably would bother with as many skills as Diablo 2 actually has here. in the same way that they are, but I'd like to keep them as simple as possible so that a skill is doing too many things. In the context of Critical Strike, I will probably end up making it so that after a certain point, the diminishing returns have a minimum value. So you might start at level 1 being let's say it's a 15% chance. And it goes up by, 3% chance for a few levels, and then 2% chance for a few levels. And then it just kind of, stops. It stops diminishing. So, level 1 might be 10, level 2 might be 15, level 3 might be, 20 or 18 or something like that. And then it just starts going up by, a little bit less each time until it hits a minimum. In the base game, there are actually levels where Critical Strike can give you literally nothing because the calculation is rounding off the full percentage, or it's actually truncating the full percentage. Naturally, most people aren't actually putting points into Critical Strike. So what I would like to do with Critical Strike over the course of the future is make it so that you can actually hit 100% if you really, really, really invest into it. And it would give some form of maximum damage. So the idea would be is that at level 1, it might give you 10% Critical Strike, but it also gives you 1 max damage. Level 2, maybe it gives you 15% Critical Strike, and it still just gives you the 1 max damage. So it's not going to be going up really, really fast. But maybe every 2 or every 3 points, with higher levels giving you more, would give you a little bit more max damage. So at level 20, that's a lot of investment. At level 20, you should probably be hitting something like 50% Critical Strike, or getting pretty close to it, maybe 40% Critical Strike, 50% Critical Strike, something in that range. So let me math this out really quick. 10 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2. It diminishes each level until it hits the minimum, is 24, and that's level 5. It would hit 24 at level 5. And then 5 more levels. We got 10. Yeah, and then it'd be 10 per 5 levels. So we got 15 levels. 15 times 2. It'd be 54 if I just did 10, 5, 4, 3, and then 2 forever. So I think that's pretty fair. Something close to that would be pretty fair. It's good and chunky up front, where it's 10% Critical Strike at level 1, 15% at level 2, 19% at level 3, and then from there it just kind of trails off. So the idea would be is that at level 1 you'd get like 1 max damage. At level maybe 3 you'd get 2 max damage. At level 5 you'd probably get another max damage, and from level 5 onward it might be like half a point or a full point of max damage every single level. So while you're chasing that 100% chance to crit, which isn't really giving you that much, going from 90% chance to crit to 92% chance to crit, it's crit bonuses. Crit damage doesn't go up in this game. You're not going to get an over crit or anything like that. And so the maximum damage bonus is intended as an over crit, if you will, because you have a bigger range of damage. You're not getting the minimum damage. You have a bigger range of damage with it. Yeah, that's my idea there. Penetrate, probably just going to stay as attack rating, but I don't know. It could be something more. I just don't know what I would put with penetrate in the context of a game design mechanic there. Attack rating seems like it's the best option. It could also give maybe some negative resistances, where it pierces enemy resistances by, 1% per level or 0.5 per level or something like that. I don't like small incremental changes though, so I wouldn't want you to just I say after I just talked about critical damage, having maximum damage that's small and whatnot. Um, but I just don't know what I would do otherwise with penetrate. I think the idea here is that it should just be what it is. And then Pierce, in the base game, Pierce is hard coded. How it works is you can get over 100% Pierce chance. So it has a maximum Pierce of, I think, it either has a maximum hit of 3 targets or a maximum Pierce of 3 targets. I'm not sure which. I'd have to Google it. I'm not going to do that right now. But so you have a 30% chance to pierce the first target, which means you hit 2 targets with 1 arrow or javelin. Then it gets cut in half for the next target. So the next target is a 15% chance to pierce, and the next target is a 7.5% chance to pierce. And if it pierces 3 times, I think it does. I think it can hit a maximum of 4 people. So this is where like multi-strike gets really strong and whatnot. Again, kind of like the critical strike, I don't know that I like that Pierce is kind of a diminishing returns. You can get over 100% chance to Pierce, which means that your secondary and tertiary Pierces are more likely. You would need something like 300% chance to pierce. 300%? No, 400% chance? Yeah, you'd need 400% chance to pierce to get all 3 targets to pierce. So, Pierce might get some remodel at the skill level, but maybe it could get a remodel at the code level as well. Maybe maybe it loses a different amount on Pierce. I don't know. Having is probably pretty fair, which means that you do need quite a bit of it to get anywhere. And I'm not sure if it actually caps off in the code in any way, shape, or form. So I don't know if like it caps at 120% or 100% or something. But I'm pretty sure you can get more than 100% Pierce, and it actually does help your secondary and tertiary bolts. If it doesn't, maybe that's something I need to change. Inner sight, something I previously did to inner sight. It may not be actually in the skill notes here. The UI may not be updated, is what I mean. Is I think it actually may reduce their attack rating as well. It should not be going up in duration, though. I'd probably want inner sight to be something more in the sense of you cast it and you forget about it. Maybe it lasts for 15 seconds at all levels, and it goes up in defense and attack rating changes on enemies so that they can't hit you and you can't hit them because you're reading their skills and illuminating their positions. Little radar thing. Slow missiles does scale the slow. Slow missiles might be a skill that ends up having a synergy with inner sight. I know I did it at one point. I don't know if it's there and it's just not being shown in the UI or what. But slow missiles would then end up being kind of the upgrade to inner sight, where it gains all of the benefits of inner sight and you just use slow missiles instead. It might not be called slow missiles at that point. And the radius might need to be bigger on either one of those. I'm not a big fan of things growing or shrinking as it levels up or having crazy different durations. Obviously, this goes from like 12 seconds to 18 seconds. It gets big really fast. But like slow missiles, maybe slow missiles cost 15 mana instead of 5, or it costs 12 mana instead of 5. And maybe its duration is 15 or even 18 at all ranks. And then slow might be a little bit more subtle difference. Based on how slow missiles works, sadly, is it actually applies to the enemy entity, the unit itself, and then their missiles, when they're launched, have a different speed. So it doesn't affect missiles in air, which is a thing that did get kind of created in later Diablo likes and like Dota and some other stuff with some like chronosphere or whatnot, time warp type stuff, which would have been cool if that was kind of more what it did. It doesn't. It just, you have to cast it before they cast their missiles. So, but that's some things that I might do with those. Decoy, it's got all sorts of stuff going on. It might have something different going on with it. It's a lot of mana. I might change the mana cost a little bit so that it's not 40. Maybe it's 25 and this is 50. And you might be able to have more than one decoy, and they may still time out quite quickly. So we'll see how I do that. But yeah, probably leveling up decoy would give you more decoys up to a maximum of maybe 3. Because that seems like a lot of decoys, a lot of summons. The mana cost would have to be still pretty high, but 40 is my entire pool right now. Pretty much, like that's almost my entire pool, 2/3 of it. 50 is definitely closer to my entire pool. And then Valkyrie would benefit from these 3 things as well. It would probably benefit from things like the max damage and whatnot. It actually does not benefit from Pierce, because Pierce doesn't actually help non-ranged weaponry, which is interesting, but I think it's the one skill that doesn't really affect all of her stuff. Because you've got your 3 javelin skills, you've got your 3 spear skills, you've got your 4 throwing skills, your arrow skills. So it affects most things. Yeah. Maybe Pierce could be applied to, I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe Pierce could be applied to things like Charge Strike or something like Impale or Fend, where it creates like a secondary missile that's invisible. I don't know. Maybe it could do something for those melee skills somehow. Because it feels like these are global, and then this suddenly doesn't work for 6 of your attacks, 6 types of your attack, and then it doesn't work for your Valkyrie, so Pierce doesn't help your Valkyrie at all. I don't know. Maybe that's fine as it is. Not everything needs to synergize. Over synergy is, in my opinion, a nail in the coffin to a good game. So let's not over synergize. I don't know. Let's go back to the skills. Multi-shot right now shoots 5 arrows at all levels, or excuse me, at all starting levels. It does scale its damage. It starts at +1 maximum. It's saying 0 to 1. I think it's like half a point of damage in there, and it's just rounding to 0, truncating to 0. I will probably make it so that the fire arrow does not convert scale. So fire arrow may convert 25% or 35% or 50% of your damage. Same thing with magic arrow. Will probably not scale up the conversion percentage. This means that you're not getting kind of detrimented by scaling it up, and that you always get what you want. Exploding arrow, I'm hoping to maybe change it into a lob, which means that it can lob over things, kind of like a throwing potion. It means it won't pierce. But it'll act more like bear hunter or whatever it's called in Diablo 3, where loaded for the bear. Loaded for the bear is what it's called, where it just kind of, it shoots and it explodes. And so it might be a skill that it might look weird or it might disappear. But the idea would be that it just instantly kind of explodes where you aim it. And it would be able to launch over some things still, in the same sense that an arrow normally would. So immolation arrow would be your piercing shot. Some ice arrow stuff might be changed. Guided arrow is a fun thing. It may be changed to seeking arrow because that's how I've coded it. Guided arrow cannot always hit in this mod. It still uses attack rating. and it has a higher seeking and turning angle in the mod. I think it's double. So if you don't click directly on a target, it will go forward and it will just turn sideways, basically in a 90-degree angle, and it will find a target at some point. So it's a larger seeking radius, and it has a larger range when it actually like does all that. It can pierce, like patch 9 allowed it to pierce back in the day. So if you get piercing on guided arrow, then, you know, it's a 30% chance for the first one, a 15% chance for the second one. If you can get your piercing up really high, then guided arrow will still be quite powerful. So little things like that. Those are some of the ideas within the mod that I've just not gotten to. Fend actually kind of works with the new spears pretty well, because the new spears have 8 range and Fend can hit everything. Distance from side to side of the screen, we're standing right in the middle. Let's see, what is 8 range? It's probably about this. This is probably 8 range from the thing, teleport portal. This is probably 8 range. It might be a little bit closer like this, but you can see that like this hits a large radius here. Maybe not quite that far over here, but you know, it hits a pretty large radius. It's kind of an oblong, oval looking weird thing because of the isometric view. So it probably hits to about here vertically and about here down here and probably about there. So Fend is actually a lot better without me doing anything, simply because spears have larger range. And Fend is only usable with spears as far as I'm aware. It might have like a rollback speed where it animates a little bit faster. I might have copied something from Diablo 2 Resurrected early on. But, you know, that kind of thing. Keep clicking B for book, because this is not Diablo 1. But anyways, Impale has no mana cost at any rank. It deals a lot of damage. It goes down to a 2% chance of losing durability. And as far as I'm aware, that's a separate durability check, which means that it can actually lose durability twice in a hit. I'm pretty sure it can, not positive. Let's put it at 85% sure. But I'm pretty sure it can because it's part of the actual code. It may actually just ignore the durability function entirely, because skills can call into the durability function. But the idea is, yeah, it's breaking your weapon. It goes down to, I think, 2% chance or 3% chance, which technically is like the same percentage as normal. So it's not that big of a deal. So it rolling twice probably makes sense if it's actually like a 3% or 2% minimum chance. But Impale costs no mana, which is what makes it good. You're charging yourself the durability of your weapon instead. So instead of mana, you're paying gold, kinda. Jab gives multiple hits. Technically, it gives 3 hits. I don't know why it says multiple hits. Maybe I need to rewrite that UI piece. For this, it does say negative 15% damage. Understand that damage percentages only apply to physical damage, where damage cuts here apply to all damage. So when multi-shot says 3/4 weapon damage, it means all damage is 3/4 weapon damage. So your lightning damage, your fire damage, they're all cut. And then multi-shot does give max damage later on, so it's kind of a physical damage skill. Something I do want to do that might upset some people, but it would make balancing easier. For weapons that do source damage, that's what this 3/4 cut is. When weapons do source damage, I would like them to also scale up or down their chance to do something. So if something does 50% source damage, is what they call it in the files, I would like it to do 50% of the chances. So like 50% source damage means that it's only, 50% chance of the normal chance to flee. And the reason that a lot of these skills are balanced that way is because they have, say, multiple hits or really quick attacks, or you're hitting a ton of targets, and it's meant to just be slightly diminished. So in this case, we're talking a 25% cut. So we're not talking critical chance, because that would be independent per bolt. But we would be talking something like monsters fleeing, or crushing blow, or chance to bleed would be reduced in that case. And in the case of multiple shot, the original game, the vanilla game, had a limitation to just like 2 or 3 targets in the middle of the multi-shot, like your facing direction, your direct facing direction. Only those targets could be bled or crushing blowed or whatever triggered, strangely enough. Knockback, I think, worked on everything. Critical worked on everything. But some of your bigger stuff like crushing blow only worked on like the first 2 or 3 bolts right in the middle. In my mod, there are less arrows, but those effects affect every single arrow. It does go up eventually. So by level 20, you have very similar amounts of arrows as the original game. It just goes up slower and starts a little bit bigger because mana cost type designs, where I wanted to have a higher mana cost and a bigger bulk purchase of that skill. So by level 5 or 6, you're kind of going to be looking at the same amount of arrows from them on, and from like level 20 or something, I think like level 18 or 20, somewhere in there, you're actually like 1 less arrow. But again, the arrows are technically stronger because they can proc things that they previously couldn't. So just to cover some of the details of some of this, strafe, I may change strafe so that it can always hit a certain number of times. So for a single target, becoming kind of a boss killer. Guided arrow is already kind of a boss killer if you want it to be. But the idea would be that like strafe can always hit half as many targets. So if it can hit one target 15 times, if it can hit any target 15 times, 15 shots, then 7 of those shots or 8 of those shots can be a boss. So it means that it's actually very dangerous because you're animation locked into that still. But it also means that you can get a bunch of shots off that you normally couldn't. And I think the original game capped it around 5 hits, like Zeal. But I may uncap it and make it just like kind of keep going. Yeah, we'll see about that. And past things, Immolation Arrow has no explosion to it. It just does fire damage per second. It says fire damage or fire duration 2 seconds. I think it's actually set to 4 right now, so the UI is not updating dynamically to the number I have input. And Immolation Arrow, I only have 1 point into it, and it is carrying me through the game pretty heavily, so it probably needs to be a lot weaker. Just in general, it needs to probably be weaker. I need to probably be able to spread my skill points out. It does gain bonuses from Fire Arrow, as does Exploding Arrow, but it doesn't gain from back and forth between these. So anyway, those are just some notes I wanted to share since I died, and I'm going to have to kind of chase all the way back over there, and I'm not going to do that. I've died a lot, and I'd rather just talk about the mod a little bit at the end than chase my body around 17 times and die and whatnot, especially because I haven't leveled up in probably an entire act at this point. I probably haven't leveled up since Act 3. Because I lose 25% of this bar every time I die. Normal is actually quite difficult if you're dying in the context of not leveling up. So in that way, at least it is mildly punishing in a good way. In my opinion, you should be punished for dying. I'd like to make bosses heal a massive percentage of their health if you die. Right now, they just heal generally, but I think they should probably just straight up heal 20% of their health or 10% of their health every time you die, so you're not just throwing bodies at it. I don't love the way of doing like fog walls and locking you into an arena, but it is definitely a good solution that works. It is definitely a working solution for boss battles. Because again, I don't want you throwing bodies at bosses, but I can't lock you into an arena in Diablo 2. That would be extremely tedious to probably code and or build, level wise and otherwise and whatnot. So we'll get there. We'll get there. But come to the Discord, talk to me. We will try to figure out a way to get people hooked into the current or near future version of the mod. It is changing kind of on a weekly basis, just a little bit as I get time to work on it. So it is, there's just a lot to do. And I'm still figuring out what I want to do in some places. Originally, this was a very personal mod, and that was it. So until then, I hope you enjoyed my rants and ramblings today, and see you next time.